reasons why, as an American, I prefer to live and work in the UK. Let's go! Number 1, free public healthcare. The NHS is truly amazing. 2, annual leave. The government legally gives every employee 20 paid days off a year, plus 8 bank holidays, where the US government gives 0. 3, in the UK, you are entitled to 1 year's maternity leave, and in the US, it's 0. The rights of LGBTQ+ employees in the UK have been protected in the workplace since 2010 under the Equality Act, whereas in the US, in June 2020, that just passed and became legal, so that means, just for being gay, you could have been fired with no other explanation. 5, the Queen, who is also our neighbour. We live in Windsor. 6, lastly, guns. No gun culture.
Hello, this is not the usual kind of content that I make, but maybe I can help someone with this video. Every time that I mention that I live here in Kenya and I work remotely for a Brazilian company, people ask me, how can I apply for this? How can I get a remote job too? So today I'm going to share with you how I got my remote job. For those who don't know, I'm a language teacher, so I help Brazilians to learn English. I also have some Portuguese and Tunisian students, but never mind. In Brazil, only 5% of the population speaks English and only 1% is fluent. Here in Kenya, almost everybody speaks English, and you can help a lot countries like Brazil, for example. But Roberta, I don't speak Portuguese. How am I going to teach Brazilians? I don't speak either Arabic or French, and I have a student from Tunisia, and we get along quite well, and he has improved a lot in the last year. What do I want to say with all of this? Look for online platforms that teach English. What I recommend: look for platforms from countries that don't speak English, but that they have a stronger currency than Kenya, so you're going to be in the good side of the exchange. There are a lot of platforms that are looking for teachers every day, so you can Google it and find some that you can apply to. I really hope this video helps. Working remotely is great, and I hope you can do it too.
After living and working in 4 countries, let's talk about the 5 reasons I wish I'd started my digital nomad journey in Buenos Aires. First, the incredible community of expats. I've made amazing friends here from all around the world and built relationships with people I'd never have had the chance to meet back home. Second, the passionate culture. Argentines are without a doubt the most friendly, fun, and warm people I've ever met. They don't take life too seriously and are always down for a good time. Third, the food. Yes, the meat is amazing, but you'll also find creative chefs pushing the boundaries of Argentine cuisine in countless restaurants. Fourth, the amazing travel experiences around the country. From the largest waterfall system in the world to Patagonia, salt flats, and glaciers, Argentina has so much to offer just a domestic flight away. And fifth, the nightlife. Buenos Aires is famous for its bar and club scene, and after dancing until 7 in the morning, you'll understand why. So take it from me, Buenos Aires is without a doubt the best place to start as a digital nomad.
So this was a comment that was left on a video I made about leaving the United States and moving to Europe for a job and not regretting it at all. And I got a lot of different comments on that video, and I'm kind of responding to them in categories. And this was a common one, like, how did you do it? Where did you go? Where do I find work? I found this job on LinkedIn. I literally just went to the country, like I did a search for the country and my industry, and I was able to find a bunch of jobs actually that would interview Americans and would potentially help them move and sponsor them with a work visa in Europe. And that's where I suggest you start. You can also go directly to websites of companies that are that have offices in Europe, or maybe your current employer has an office in Europe, and it'll often say whether or not they're accepting international applicants or international transfers. The process was, I guess, relatively simple compared to what I've heard about the U.S. immigration process. I did have a job. I had a job contract before I moved, so that made it a lot easier, I'm sure. But you have to file a bunch of paperwork, you have to do background checks, and then you kind of get the equivalent of a green card, which is actually a blue card in Europe. I was very lucky in that the company that hired me also paid for my relocation. So they paid to ship all of my furniture over. They paid for me to fly over. They paid for like a month of temporary accommodation, which was very, very helpful. They helped me find an apartment. So those jobs exist. They absolutely exist. And you just have to search for them. So check out LinkedIn. Talk to maybe a recruiter who specializes in international things in your industry. and see what you can find. If you don't already have a job and you're thinking about moving, I think the process is much more difficult because you can't technically work on a tourist visa, which only lasts for like 3 months anyway. You really need to find a job before you move. But there are jobs. And so you should look. One thing to keep in mind is that salaries in Europe are lower. In fact, when I heard the compensation for this job, I literally laughed at the recruiter. I said, "That's ridiculous. It sets me back years." But the benefits kind of make up for it, and you're paid well. You still have a very good life. But that's something to consider. If you're really interested in the actual dollar amount, you might be surprised at what you're going to get here. But like, this is all personal. Like, you need to decide what's best for you. I decided that this was best for me. I think for a lot of people, they're redoing that calculus.
These are my top 5 tips for moving abroad. So firstly, make sure you pack enough basics. So you're not going to want to spend money on work clothes or even shopping on the whole. I find you'll probably want to put most of your money into travel when you're here. So make sure you've got all the boring stuff sorted, and also bring a coat with you, because even if you're moving to Australia, it does get cold in the winter. Secondly, use op shops when you're here, or charity shops. So rather than going to Kmart and buying a multi-set of all your pots, pans, plates and stuff, just go to a charity shop and see what they have and just buy stuff as you need it, so you don't accumulate too much stuff, and it's better for the environment and cheaper. Thirdly, try not to waste your weekends at the start. So you'll probably have loads of admin stuff to do, which you can drag out over 4 or 5 weekends, but just try and consolidate that down to like a Saturday or a Sunday, so you can actually go out there and explore and not waste any of your time once you've moved. Then on that note, also join Facebook groups to meet people. So just search your area in Facebook and then meet up after it. There's loads of them in Sydney. You'll probably meet more expats that way, but it does have a multiplier effect as you meet their friends as well. And it's just a great way to meet like-minded people. And then finally, try not to overthink the move. So it's not hugely different to moving to a different city. You've just got the addition of a flight and a visa, but all the practical steps are the same. So just don't overthink it and enjoy it.
So how can you stay in Europe or get a job in Europe if you are American? I came from the US office of Netflix, so I think there's definitely a way to apply to a job that is an international corporation, work at the place in the US, and then see if they have a rotation or if they have permanent jobs available elsewhere that they would let you apply to, and then move to that country. There are also so many American companies that have international offices all across the world that you could probably just apply to begin with. In Amsterdam, there are so many. The first ones that come to mind are, of course, Netflix, there's Uber, there's Qualcomm, there's Miro, and I'm forgetting 1,000 jillion others. These are just the first ones that come to mind because I know people off the top of my head who work at those places. Also, lots of consulting companies are here. So if you want to stay in Europe after your master's and work at a multinational or American company, then I would just look up companies that have offshoots, or maybe they're headquartered in a specific European city, and apply to jobs there. Follow for more working abroad and moving abroad tips.